this is the Pop Music Freak. I'm back with another video. This time I have a new category. I want to look over a list that is exciting and fun for me. I don't know how you'll feel about it, but it's a list of the 100 most successful songwriters of the Hot 100 era. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down to videos of 25 each. So this video will be from number 100 up to number 76. I'm going to do a countdown of each of the songwriters who have had the most success on the charts. Basically, you're going to have some names here that are very, very familiar. Of course, they're going to be the artists themselves. Some cases you have some ultra successful songwriters who are known for the songwriting. And there's going to be some people who have been pretty popular over the last, say, 20 years who may not be familiar names to any of you, but to the artists out there and to the songs that they have written will be very familiar, I am sure. All right, so let me get things started here. I'm going to start the countdown, and I'm going to name for you the 3 biggest hits that this specific songwriter wrote. All right, so for example, here at number 100, the songwriter is Chad Hugo. Now, most of you are going to say, who the heck is that? Never heard of him. That's no singer that I know of. Well, he's not a singer. He's a songwriter. But in the last 20 years, he's had amazing success. He has written 3 different number 1 singles, and I'm going to tell you which ones they are. Third biggest hit he wrote was Snoop Dogg's Drop It Like It's Hot, which hit number 1 in 2006. His second biggest song, Gwen Stefani's Holla Back Girl, from 2005, which hit number 1. And the biggest hit written by Chad Hugo is Nelly's Hot in Here from 2002. So, Chad Hugo is the number 100 songwriter of the Hot 100 era. Next, we have number 99. It's Nao. You've heard of Nao, I am sure. He has written 3 number 1 records. Third biggest hit he wrote was Beyonce's Irreplaceable from 2007. Second biggest hit he wrote was Pitbull's Gimme Everything from 2011. And Mario's Let Me Love You is the biggest hit written by Nao from 2005. Alright, next we have number 98. It's Will.I.AM from the Black Eyed Peas, of course. He wrote most of the Black Eyed Peas' big hits. But he also wrote a hit for his friend Usher. Actually, give you the rundown. He wrote 5 number 1 hits. Third biggest hit written by Will.I.AM is Usher's Oh My God. The second biggest hit is the Black Eyed Peas' Boom Boom Pow. And the biggest hit written by Will.I.AM is Black Eyed Peas' I Got a Feeling from 2009. So there you have it. He is number 98 on my list. Next we have number 97. It is Justin Timberlake. Yes, he wrote many of the NSYNC hits, and he wrote a good chunk of his solo hits. He has a total of 5 number 1s that he has written. Biggest hit he wrote, believe it or not, wasn't recorded by him at all. It was Halsey's Without Me. Justin Timberlake was a co-writer on Without Me. And that is the biggest hit that he has written. Second biggest hit he wrote was his Can't Stop the Feeling. And his third biggest hit, Sexy Back. So he's had a good run as a songwriter, but not just his own songs. So there we go with that. Number 96 is next. It's Bryan Adams. In this case, he's pretty much written mostly just his own songs, with a couple of minor hits he wrote for other artists. Third biggest hit he wrote was his hit All for Love, where he teamed up with Sting and Rod Stewart. The second biggest hit written by Bryan Adams is Everything I Do It For You from 1991. And the biggest hit that he wrote was Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman, which actually gained a few more points than Everything I Do It For You. So there you have it. He is number 96. He's written 4 number 1 songs. Fourth was Heaven, of course, from back in 1985. Number 95 on our list is a legendary songwriter, Jerry Leiber, who's written songs going all the way back to the 1950s. In this case, let's see, in 2 of the 3 songs, he's basically getting songwriting credit because someone else sampled a song written by him. But I'll explain that further as we go along. He's written 2 number 1 singles in his career. Third biggest hit written by him, technically, is Warren G's Regulate. Well, I will explain how that happens. How did he write a rap song? Basically, what happened is they borrowed the melody and music from Michael McDonald's I Keep Forgetting. So I Keep Forgetting, um, actually, that wasn't even written by Jerry Leiber either. What happened is Michael McDonald had to give credit on I Keep Forgetting to a song recorded by Chuck Jackson called I Keep Forgetting, and where the title is the same along with a few of the lyrics. Jerry Leiber wrote that song for Chuck Jackson. So what happened is Jerry Leiber's getting songwriting credit on Regulate. Small percentage, I think it's about 12%. But it does matter in terms of our countdown. It's the third biggest hit that he has written, technically. His number 2 song is basically the same situation as Sean Kingston's Beautiful Girls. Took the whole melody from Benny King's Stand By Me, which was written by Jerry Leiber and is the biggest hit written by Jerry Leiber. Stand By Me was a hit twice, hit the top 5 in 1961 and hit the top 10 again in 1986. So Jerry Leiber has credit for 2, basically. 2 of his top 3 was songs he actually didn't really, write himself, but has some credit anyway. All right, I hope that you understand what I mean by that, because there's going to be a few more examples of that as we go along here. All right, including the next artist at number 94, Barry White, is 94th on our Hot 100 songwriting list. He wrote 2 number 1s in his career, his own Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, and then he wrote his third biggest hit, the Love Unlimited Orchestra's Love's Theme, which actually is him conducting the Love Unlimited Orchestra. Second biggest hit that he's getting credit for is No, No, No from Destiny's Child, as they took a sample off of one of Barry White's more obscure songs that wasn't a single. And it's the same case with his number 1. Biggest hit that he's been credited for is Come On and Ride the Train from the Quad City DJs, as they took a sample of one of his songs. So he's getting a small songwriting credit on that. So, yeah, it's technically not really their song, but, if it's their melody, it's their song, basically. All right, so we're going to keep going. Number 93 is a Motown songwriting legend, Barrett Strong, who wrote several hits. He wrote 5 number 1 hits from Motown. The top 3 of which, the number 3 is War by Edwin Starr, which was a song originally written for the Temptations, but they decided to record Ball Confusion and didn't want to become too out there in the social commentary sense. So Edwin Starr was given the chance to perform War, and he sure made the best of it, going to number 1 for 3 weeks. Second biggest hit is The Temptations' I Can't Get Next to You, which in terms of chart success is rated the highest of the Temptations songs. And he also had a part in writing Heard It Through the Grapevine, which originally was recorded by Gladys Knight and the Pips and then recorded by Marvin Gaye, who had the bigger hit with it. So that's that. Barrett Strong is number 93. Now we're up to number 92. It is Alicia Keys. Basically, it is all of her songs. Nearly every song that she's had a hit with was written by her. She wrote a total of 4 number 1 hits. The third biggest of which is If I Ain't Got You. And number 2 is Fallen. And her biggest hit, according to our statistics, is No One from 2007. So Alicia Keys is number 92 on our list. Next, number 91, Kanye West. The one, the only. All right, well, let's look at this list. He's written 4 number 1 hits. And only one of the top 3 was his own hit. Well, actually, no, 1.5. His third biggest hit was Heartless, that written by him. And number 2, he wrote Ludacris Stand Up, which ended up being a number 1 smash for Ludacris. And the biggest hit that Kanye West has written is Gold Digger, where he teamed up with Jamie Foxx and had the biggest hit of 2005. So Kanye West is number 91 on our list of the most successful songwriters of the Hot 100 era. Now we're at number 90, another Motown legend, the man who ran the place. I'm talking about Berry Gordy. He's written 5 number 1 hits. 4 of them by the Jackson 5. In fact, the first 4 singles the Jackson 5 released were all written by Berry Gordy. Want You Back is number 3 on his list. Then you have the Contours' Do You Love Me, which is number 2 on his list because it was a number 3 hit originally in 1962, and then was re-released because of his inclusion in the Dirty Dancing soundtrack, where it became a hit all over again, hitting number 11 in 1988. And Berry Gordy's number 1 is I'll Be There, which is the Jackson 5's biggest hit. Berry Gordy at number 90. Next, we're at number 89. It's Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris, who only had one number 1, but his work with Rihanna has been the biggest gold mine for Calvin Harris. Number 3 is Where Have You Been? Number 2 is This Is What You Came For. And number 1 is We Found Love with Rihanna, which spent it was number 1 for 10 weeks, late in 2011. All right, number 88, another songwriter that might make you shake your head or scratch your head, both of them, because he's not a familiar name, but SAVAN KOTECHA has been a very successful songwriter in the 2000s and the 2010s, as he's written 6 songs that reached number 1. Now, the 3 biggest hits that he wrote: number 3, DJ Got Us Falling in Love Again, which was Usher teaming up with Pitbull back in 2010. Second biggest hit by SAVAN was Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd. And the number 1 song is One More Night by Maroon 5, which spent 8 weeks at number 1. That is the biggest hit written by SAVAN KOTECHA at number 88. Next, number 87, Akon. Now, Akon has had his own share of hits through the mid-2000s, but he also wrote 2 very big hits for 2 huge female stars at the same time. Now, his Smack That is the 3rd biggest hit he has written. His number 2 is The Sweet Escape, which Gwen Stefani sang with him. And the biggest hit Akon has ever written, Just Dance by Lady Gaga. And he's had a total of 4 number 1s. Don't Matter was his other number 1. Now we're at number 86, JayZ, the one and only JayZ. Now, let's see, did he sing? Well, no, he actually, let's see, yeah, the number 2. He did perform on number 2 and number 3. All right, but he's written a total of 6 number 1s on the pop chart. 3rd biggest hit he wrote was Empire State of Mind, when he teamed up with Alicia Keys. Number 2 is Suit and Tie, his team up with Justin Timberlake. And the biggest hit, Beyonce's Baby Boy, which she actually performed with Sean Paul. And but JayZ did not perform on that song, but it is the biggest hit that he has written. Okay, number 85 on our list is Bob CREWE. Some of you that are younger may not recognize the name Bob CREWE. Who's that? Well, he's a songwriter that came up in the 60s and became one of the main songwriters for the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons and their big string of hits. He also wrote several songs for Frankie Valli's solo career, and he also teamed up with Kenny Nolan, who had some big hits of his own. Actually, one big hit, I Like Dreaming. But the top 3 that Bob CREWE has written, number 3 would be My Eyes Adored You from Frankie Valli, his first big solo, well, actually his second big solo hit. He had a first run of it in the 60s, but then came back to being a solo artist in the mid-70s and had huge success with My Eyes Adored You, which hit number 1. The number 2 song is Big Girls Don't Cry, the second hit from the Four Seasons, which ended up being the biggest hit they ever had. Number 1, believe it or not, yes, he wrote Lady Marmalade with Kenny Nolan. Originally a number 1 smash for LaBelle in 1975, remade in 2001 by Christina Aguilera, Lil' Kim, Maya, and Pink, which is an even bigger number 1. So there you have it for Bob CREWE, number 85 on our list. He had a total of 5 number 1 hits. Number 84, Sly Stone, baby. Sly Stone, he wrote all the hits for his group Sly and the Family Stone, and actually got the credit for a song by another act in the 90s who took one of his hits and twisted it. Basically, the song People Every Day from Arrested Development was Everyday People. Sly Stone, of course, that song is him, basically. So that's the third biggest hit that Sly Stone's had a part of writing. Number 2 would be the Sly and Family Stone hit Family Affair from 1971. And the biggest hit, Everyday People from 1969. Okay, now we're up to number 83. Here's another big songwriter from this century, Scott Storch, who's had 3 different hits for 3 different artists and has written a total of 7 number 1 singles. Number 3 in his list would be Run It from Chris Brown, 2006. Number 2, co-writer of Let Me Love You by Mario. And the biggest hit he's ever written, co-wrote with Justin Timberlake, Without Me from Halsey. So those are the 3 biggest hits that Scott Storch has been involved with. Next, number 82, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Obviously, all the Beach Boys masterpiece hits were written by Brian Wilson. He's written a total of 4 number 1s, and we'll go over what he's been part of. The third biggest hit he wrote was I Get Around from the Beach Boys. Number 2 was Surfin' USA from the Beach Boys. And then number 1, Katy Perry's California Girls borrowed quite a bit from the original Beach Boys hit California Girls. So he gets credit on that record. So those are the 3 biggies from Brian Wilson and number 82. Next we have number 81. The artist is Maurice Gibb, 1/3 of the Bee Gees, obviously. So the way this is breaking down is that a lot of their biggest hits were written together by the 3 of them, in some cases 2 of them. So with this, it's going to be mostly the same, pretty much the same 3 songs by all 3 of the brothers. Just a matter of Barry Gibb wrote a few extra songs for other artists, and Robin Gibb wrote an extra couple of hits for other artists as well. So for Maurice Gibb, he gets credit number 3 for Shadow Dancing by Andy Gibb. Number 2 would be Staying Alive from the Bee Gees, and number 1 would be How Deep Is Your Love. So Maurice Gibb has writing credit on 11 number 1 hits. That's quite a bit. All right, number 80 is Beyonce. Number 80. Now, Beyonce's written a share of songs with JayZ, but has written a bunch by herself. She has a total of 8 number 1 hits that she is credited for. Third biggest hit would be Crazy in Love, her team up with JayZ. Second biggest hit would be Baby Boy, teaming up with Sean Paul. And the biggest hit, Irreplaceable, which was the number 1 single of 2007. Okay, next, we're at number 79. It's David Gates. David Gates from Bread. So he wrote a chunk of Bread's hits, but he also wrote a couple of songs back in the 60s for certain acts. And then he had one big solo hit, so we'll get into this. Number 3 on his list would be Goodbye Girl, which was his big solo hit in 1978. Second biggest hit he wrote was a number 1 hit called Popsicles and Icicles from the Mermaids. Correction, that actually hit number 3. My apology. It didn't hit number 1. That was back in 1964. That was years before he even formed Bread. And then his biggest hit is the Bread number 1 single, Make It With You, from 1970. So, plus he wrote other songs like If and Baby I'ma Want You and Everything I Own. Most of their big 70s hits. Okay, now we're up to number 78. The songwriter is John Fogerty. He goes into the history books. I'll explain why. He has written the most songs ever to reach number 2 on the charts, but never wrote a number 1 single, according to Billboard. Anyway, a couple of the other magazines, I think he hit number 1 for a week on Cashbox with one of his singles, but I'll have to do some research on that. Okay, so anyway, John Fogerty he had several top 5 hits as a songwriter. Number 3 on his list would be Bad Moon Rising from Creedence. Number 2 would be Proud Mary. And number 1 would be Down on the Corner, which actually only reached number 3 on the Hot 100, but it spent a little bit longer stretch at the top of the charts than his other hits. So that's rated the biggest hit by Creedence Clearwater Revival. All right. Next, number 77, it's Chuck Berry. Now, he only wrote one song that hit number one. We'll get into that in a second. But, of course, with his tremendous talent as a guitarist and a performer, you would think that maybe he would be rated a little higher, but honestly, he didn't really have a huge number of hits in his career. But let me give you his top three. Number 3 is Sweet Little 16, which hit number 5 back in 1955. The number 2 song on his list is his number 1 hit, My Ding-a-Ling, from 1972. Anyway, and his number 1, actually, he got credit for because the Beach Boys decided to pay tribute to him and use the exact melody for their hit Surfing USA. They swear it was just a tribute. It wasn't a deliberate attempt to steal his song. Well, Chuck Berry ended up getting songwriting credit for Surfing USA. So that's the number 1 biggest hit that he has songwriting credit for. All right, now, finally, number 76. We're going to wrap it up with number 76. It's Ludacris. He's written 5 number 1 pop hits, and only one of them were his own. He wrote for other artists. His third biggest hit would be Break Your Heart from Teo Cruz from 2010. Second biggest hit would be his song Stand Up from 2007. And the biggest hit that he has written is Usher's Yeah, which spent 11 weeks at number 1 in 2004. So Ludacris has had a good share of success, and not just with his own songs. So that wraps up this part of it. We've done the bottom 25. I'm going to come back in the next few days with the next 25, 75 through 51. And I think the top of this list is pretty exciting because you're going to have some interesting names. They're battling it out for the top spot. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, please share it with everyone. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get it built up. It's been a struggle trying to get over 100. I'd like to get it to the thousands. That would be nice. All right, so thank you all so much. I'm going to do another reaction video today. And whatever else I have planned, we'll find out. All right, thank you so much, and peace and love.